Okay, so hi everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Ti from Irie Knit, and I'll be your instructor again today for the knitting class. Today, I have a few things that I want to get through. I have some casting on. I'm going to go a little bit deeper into the yarn, and hopefully today, maybe if it's not too much, we'll get into doing some knit stitch, some garter stitch, things of that nature. So once again, this is brought to you guys by Better Space. And they've been so gracious to have me on to teach you guys. And as I was saying before, this class is essentially for you. So if you are comfortable, go ahead and unmute yourself and let me know if you want me to slow down or repeat anything. It can be a little bit difficult to go in the chat and type because as you can see, this video is going to be mostly my hands. If you guys could do that, that would be really helpful. So let's jump in. I have a little note here because I have a lot of things that I want to get to for you guys. Let me switch over now. All right, so last week I recommended this yarn for you guys, and now you could see a little bit clearer, hopefully. We have the super bulky, which is a number 6 here. And usually for any yarn that you purchase when it has a label, it'll have a recommended needle size. So for super bulky, it recommends the 9mm needle. Same thing for the crochet. And then you'll get some other information down here like machine washable, dryable. Just keep note of that for when you want to kind of clean your garment. So I'm starting off with a new pack because I want to go through how you start your work. So essentially there's two ways to work with a ball of yarn, right? You could start out with a string that you just pull off and it's just coming from around the ball of yarn. Or if you are adventurous, you could go in the middle here and you could get the start of your yarn from the middle. So sometimes you're like pulling out a lot. I like to just go from the end, but if you have a preference, those are the two ways that you can start working on knitting. So we are going to start off any project is usually a slip knot. So a slip knot, you want to have a tail. So I don't know if you could tell fully here, but this is about a 12-inch tail. And that's usually the part that is no longer attached to the yarn. So it'll be separated essentially. So you're having two sides, one that's no longer attached, and then the second side is attached to the ball of yarn. So when you tug on it, the yarn will move a bit, okay? So I'm going to show you two different knitting tools. So firstly, I have the straight 9mm knitting needle here. And I also have, sorry, I'm trying to get people in as well. I'm also, can I have your email address? Oh, yes. Sorry guys, 1 second. It's Gmail. Okay. All right, there you go. All right, so we have this 9mm knitting needle here. And we also have another knitting needle here, but this is 10mm. What I wanted to show you guys quickly before we get into it is that when you're buying your needles, they have different lengths. So this one is a little bit shorter. Meanwhile, this one is a little bit longer. So think about the type of project that you're trying to make so that you're not left with a bunch of stitches that are coming off your needle and you can go ahead and get a longer needle. I say it's best to just go ahead and get a longer straight needle, but it's really the preference. So let's start out with the slip knot on a straight needle. So I'm going to make my tail just a little bit shorter here so you could see it in frame. So here's my tail, and I'm essentially working with the part attached to the yarn here and the tail together to make stitches on my knitting needle. So first is the slip knot. There's two ways to make the slip knot. One, I'm gonna put the knitting needle down. And you're gonna start out by, if anyone has been on a boat, you'll probably know this knot. So you'll start by twisting, well, lay your yarn down like this, like a loop, and you'll start by twisting the top, and then you're going to grab the piece that is attached to the ball of yarn. So you're gonna pull that through. So it's gonna create a little opening here. And with that opening, you're able to adjust how wide it is in order for it to fit on your knitting needle. So then you're able to pull that on your knitting needle so it's nice and taut. You don't want it tight where you can't move it around. You want it where there's a little bit of breathing room because you're going to have to work back into that same stitch. Another way to do this, and let me know if you guys want to see that again. Another way to do this is you just take your knitting needle, same format where you have your ending here, the piece attached to the yarn. Oops. You hold that up here like this. You put your knitting needle through, and you're going to create like a slingshot. If anybody has used a slingshot like this is what you're going to be doing with your hands. So pretend you're out with some sticks or rocks, I should say, and you're using a slingshot. So this is the method that I prefer to use because it just leaves a cleaner start to your knitting project. So you start with the slingshot, and then you take your knitting needle and you go underneath the side for your thumb. Take your needle again, and you go underneath the side for your pointer finger, and then you bring that all through, and it creates two stitches at a time. But the difference between that and this is you have this bump here. And usually, if you can avoid little things by making little changes with your knitting project, I usually recommend that. This little bump is not a big deal, but at a certain point, it's gonna start bothering you. So that's another way to do a slip knot. So I'm going to do the second one again. Let me know if you need me to do any of them again. So we're gonna have our tail on the right-hand side, the um, the yarn that's still attached to the working yarn on the left-hand side. We're going to put our needle underneath, create a slingshot, right? And then we're going to take the knitting needle and push it up here. Then we're going to twist it and get it underneath the other side and then back through where the thumb is. And it creates two stitches on your needle. And then you continue to knit, so on and so forth, right? I'm also going to go ahead and do this with my circular needles. So here I have two 8mm circular needles. And as I said, with the straight needles is the same situation where you have two needles, but there's different sizes. So you could see this one in the front is a little bit shorter than this one here. And over time, you'll get used to like what your hands prefer. For me, I prefer the larger one back here. This one's a little bit smaller. It's a little bit cumbersome, but this one works well for me. So I'm going to demonstrate it with this knitting needle here. So with the circular needle, obviously we have this, what do you call this? Maybe just a string, or it's a tightly coiled material attaching your two knitting needles. And you just pretend that one is not in use when you're casting on. So you create the slip knot again by let's get that one out the way a bit. And you put the needle underneath, and same slingshot part. And it's just like that. Or you have your yarn down, you twist it around, You pull the end that is not attached to the yarn, and you go through and you create a slip knot, and then you place your needle through that. You tighten it just a bit, and that's what you start your work with. Any questions, you guys? Are we good for this? Okay. All right. Any questions? Feel free to stop me. Okay. So this is the slip knot portion, and this is called the long tail cast on. So essentially, it's in the name. You have a long tail. Usually, you try to make your tail about maybe 10 times the length that you're trying to make. Sometimes you'll have a longer tail than you need to, so you could start over again by taking up some of the yarn and recasting on. It's a little thing that you kind of had to play around with. So after you have your, let's use the straight needle. So I'm gonna cast on with the straight. And when it comes to your tension on the knitting needle, it's important that don't think about what my tension is on my needle. Everybody's tension is different, and I'm going to get into something to help you kind of, get the same material, let's say if you're following a pattern, but everybody's tension is different. The main thing you want to focus on is making sure that the yarn on the needle is movable. It's not too tight where when I come here, right, to go back into this to knit, I can't get my needle through here. So that is the main thing we're going to focus on when it comes to tension. So with your knitting needle, I'm going to cast on again. So let's say I cast on 10. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And as you notice, as I'm casting on more, the tail end is getting shorter. Because like I say, we're using the tail that's attached to the yarn and the long tail that we kind of made to guesstimate how much we were going to need. Whenever, like right now, I said I wanted to do 10. Right now, I have 7 on my knitting needle. You want to make sure that you still have about 6 inches of yarn in order to weave that in at the end of your project. So as you can see here, I don't have enough to cast on 10 and have enough tail to weave in. So I'm going to go back now, look at how much I had taken out, and I'm going to take some more from the working end of the yarn and add that to my tail. And then we're going to try it again. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So now we have 10 on our knitting needle, and we have a very long tail. I don't like to waste my yarn, so usually I'll go back in and make it a little bit shorter, but for today's purposes, we're going to continue. So when you cast on to your straight knitting needle or any knitting needle, I like to get my work close to the very pointy end of the needle. That way it's easy for me to work back into that. So whenever you have a straight needle, you like to turn your work. And if you notice, on one end, we have a more almost like wavy portion, like wavy side of the needle, the stitch when it's cast on. And then on this side, it's not much here right now. So this side is where you're going to purl. This side, whenever you turn here, is where you're going to knit. Today, we're only going to be focused on the knit stitch. And the knit stitch is done. So instead of purling on the purl side, we're going to just knit on the purl side. So we're going to bring our stitches close to the top, just like this. And then we're going to take our needle here and we're going to insert it from the back into that same stitch. So you could see here. And then I'm going to show you two different methods of knitting. We have the English style of knitting and we have the continental style of knitting. When you're knitting English style, you essentially are putting down your hand, removing your hand from one of your knitting needle, and you are taking that hand. As you can see, it's not my dominant knitting style. The other one is mine, so it's a little cumbersome for me. So you're putting both through and you're taking your yarn and you're wrapping it around the needle that you just inserted. Then you're putting your hand back on the needle and then you're pulling through that stitch on your yarn. So now you have one stitch moved over to the other needle. Let me know if that's a lot. I could redo that for you guys, but I am going to be redoing it for the other 10 stitches as well. So again, just to separate that stitch a little bit more so you could see, we're going from the back, just like that. We drop the needle from our right hand, if you're right-handed, and you're going to make sure you're not mixing up the end that is not attached. You don't want to be working with that. Let me get that back through here. You want to be working with the end that's attached to the yarn. So you're going to flick that around, put it on the needle, then you place the needle back on your hand, and then you're pulling through here. And then you slide it off the needle. So again, you take your needle, you're pushing from the back of the stitch into the stitch, drop your right hand, take it, wrap it around just the needle that you just inserted, not the one that's holding the stitch. You kind of want to hold it a bit so that it doesn't slip through. So I like to hold it with just some of my fingers down here. And you're going to take that and pull it through. So essentially like this. And do it one more time through the back, wrap, and pull through. So that's how you knit if you're knitting English style. I'm a continental style knitter. So I started knitting after I've been crocheting for years. So this is usually the method that crocheters tend to go to. It's a little bit faster. It's more easier to do, less cumbersome as well. And yeah, I would recommend trying to learn continental style, but do whatever is more comfortable for you. So with continental style, we're not dropping our hand from this needle. We're taking the needle, going in, and we're wrapping it around the yarn, and then we're pulling through. Taking the needle, same thing from the back to the front, except what's wrapping the yarn is not our right hand going around to do this. What's wrapping the yarn is my pointer finger on my left hand, as well as my right hand aiding that and pulling it through. So I'm going to do that one more time. Take the needle, push it through from the back, take my hand, twist it around, and pulling through. So a little bit faster. Sometimes the yarn can get a little bit slippery. So this is where your thumb on your left hand comes in. Use that to kind of hold it in place. Put your needle here, twist, and pull through. And now we've transferred all of our stitches onto the other needle. So if you see here, we have this is what knit stitches look like a V. I don't know if you could see that here. There's a V right here. So whenever you see those V's, that's a knit stitch. But in the back here, we have the pearls. But what we are doing is we are making garter stitch, which is just knitting every single round. So as we flip back and forth, we're just doing the knit stitch. It's a lot easier. Um, Next time we'll do the pearl stitch, but it takes a little bit more dexterity. So knit stitch it is, and you still create a beautiful fabric by knitting all the rounds, because then you get the garter stitch. So again, before I get in, so you have all the stitches on one needle. We're going to turn the needle around. We're going to hold the portion that's attached to the yarn, hold it between your middle and your ring finger. And that's to make sure that it's not all flying around, and it gives what's called even tension. So not specific to anybody, it's just for you to be able to get some even nice stitches on your needle. So again, I'm going to do the English style, and then I'm going to do the continental style. So same thing, you go in the back, push it through, you're dropping your hand from the needle. And now, as you can see, my left hand is holding both my right needle and my left needle. Take the piece that's still attached to the ball of yarn, swish it around just like that. And now I'm still holding on to this a bit because I don't want it to just flow everywhere. And it also allows it to stay on the needle so that when I'm trying to pull it through, it doesn't slip off. So I'm holding it, just same thing. Sometimes I hold it just with my thumb and my pointer. And then you take your hand and you pull it through and slide it off. And then sometimes when you, that first stitch and that last stitch, sometimes it needs a little adjustment. So you'll tighten it a bit with the working yarn. And by working yarn, I just mean the yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn. I hope that's not confusing. But again, we're going to go through, going to go around and pull through. Go from the back, around, and pull through. And this is the knit stitch using the English style of knitting. And then this is it with the continental style. So I hold my yarn in my left hand and I just go like this. Sometimes it slips off and I do that. And you spin your work around and it looks like this. So we have the start of a beautiful garter stitch project. So I'm going to stop for a little bit and let you guys take that in. Let me know if you want me to repeat anything that I've just gone over, and I could do that for you. So this is working with the straight needle. I'm going to now switch over to the circular needle. So this is the time if you have any questions in regard to the straight needle and working with that, let me know now. Okay, all right. So I'm going to now switch over to the circular needle. Just take all of that off. I'm going to undo this. And remember, this is the start of my slip knot. I'm gonna take a little bit more of the yarn so I don't have that much of a tail. And here we have the circular needle. So this is Chigo 9mm circular needle. And I'm going to, let's do the harder cast on because I think everybody kind of gets the twist and pull through method. Um, so let's do the slingshot cast on. So again, like a slingshot, underneath one side, underneath the other, and then through the first side. I'm just going to hold that down. Cast on 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, do you see how short my tail is? Because I did a little adjustment when it came to my cast on. So that's something that you could do. You could see where you started the cast on and then give back a little bit of yarn to your yarn ball. Now we have the stitches on the needle. Same thing essentially. You could use, even though it's has a piece attached, you can use it just as you'd use it with the straight needle. So you'll put the working end of yarn to the back. And same thing, I'm gonna continental style knit. Like to push your work up as much as you can without the stitch falling off your needle. And what can happen, which I'm gonna show you in the other, when we turn the work. What can happen when you're first learning how to knit is you can, instead of going from the back here, sometimes people accidentally, and by people I mean me, when I was first learning, I went through the front instead. So you go here and I was doing something. It's not wrong, technically. You could make a different type of fabric with that. So it's not wrong, but if you want it to look like the regular knit stitch fabrics that you see in the stores, you want to make sure that you're going through the back stitch, the back part of the stitch. So same thing again, you go through from the back, wrap the yarn around, and I'm trying to make sure that you could see the pull through portion. So from the back, wrap around, and you're pulling through here, and then you slide it off the needle. And again, this is going to be up for you guys to review, slow down. My email is there if you have any questions. If you need something to be reviewed before before we get into like the next topics for the next class, you could let me know there so that I could cover it for a little bit more before we get into something new. I just dropped my stitch. So here's something fun. You just drop your stitch off the needle. Here it is, just hanging out. Simply place your needle back through and just continue knitting. If I went ahead and I said, oh my gosh, I put my work away and the knitting needle came out and now my work looked like this, what am I gonna do? Hold it, don't fret, and just push your needle back through the stitches one at a time. And your work is back on your needle. Sometimes when you're placing it through, let's say you twist the stitch this way and you're knitting. Let's say we're knitting again in the back and we twisted the third stitch the wrong way. So this one is twisted the wrong way. Just take it off, turn it, and put it back on. So I hope you guys are able to see everything I'm doing, and it doesn't seem as scary or intense. I found that the best thing that I've done for myself is to just make all the mistakes in the beginning, drop your stitches, um, do it the quote unquote wrong way and learn how to fix those, because that's the scariest part, is like, how do I fix something after I've been doing it for a long time? That's a little bit harder. So make all the mistakes in the beginning, and there's nothing really that we're doing um there's nothing really that we're doing hard here. We're just doing the knit stitches, and that's just putting it here from the back and working through that stitch. So if you have any questions, well, actually, we're past the time. We're past the time a bit. Let me know if you have any questions. I know that was a lot of information. I tried to go as slow as I possibly can, but I did want to cover all of those topics. So right now, if you have any questions, if you are comfortable, you want to unmute yourself and ask that question, or if you want to type it in the chat, I'm going to give you a few minutes to go ahead and do so. After that, I think we're going to close it out. I did go ahead and put my email, the YouTube channel, and the Yarn Council website that I think is really helpful, that you guys could continue to check out and browse around there. Um, if there's no questions, thank you guys so much for joining me on another knitting class. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys learned something. Again, feel free to reach out if you have any further questions. Oh, great. Thank you. I was a little worried that you may not be able to see it a little bit, but I'm happy that you guys were able to get the concept. So try out both ways, see which one works for you. If you have been crocheting, I do recommend you go into Continental. If this is your very first time holding a knitting needle, I also recommend you go in Continental because it's just so much easier to do. But try it out and see which one works for you. And again, feel free to reach out anytime via email. Thank you guys again. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you next week, Wednesday, same time, 12 p.m. Bye, guys.